Welcome to This Explainer. I'm your host, and as a language coach who spent years guiding professionals through the tricky nuances of English conversation, I am absolutely thrilled to be here with you today. We're going to build a practical communication toolkit to help you completely master your English interactions. Because we aren't just looking at dry grammar today. No, we're looking at how you actually connect with people. I mean, we've all been there, right? Have you ever walked away from a conversation and just cringed? Worried that you sounded a little too blunt, or maybe your point just didn't land the way you wanted? We all want to sound polite, approachable, and professional. So today, we're going to fix those awkward moments for good. We're taking what might look like boring grammar rules and transforming them into vibrant, essential social skills that you can use, well, literally right now. So here's our agenda for today. We've got 4 main sections. 1, who receives the action? 2, reporting what others say. 3, asking politely. And finally, 4, seeking confirmation. All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, who receives the action, direct and indirect objects. To communicate clearly, you really need to grasp this foundational concept. Think of it like a chain reaction. The direct object is the person or thing that directly receives the action of the verb. It gets acted upon. The indirect object, on the other hand, tells us to whom or for whom the action is done. It's usually the lucky person getting that direct object. For example, if Andrew gave his dog a bone, well, a bone is the direct object because it's the thing being given. And his dog? That's the indirect object because the dog is the one happily receiving the bone. Now, word order is everything here. In English, the indirect object usually just sneaks right in before the direct object. No extra words needed. Take this sentence. I am writing Grandma a letter. Grandma is indirect, a letter is direct. Simple, right? But notice how if you flip them and put the indirect object after the direct object, you suddenly have to use to or for. It becomes I am writing a letter to Grandma. Try switching the sentence in your head right now. I made my friend a sandwich. To flip it, you actually have to say I made a sandwich for my friend. It's a tiny shift, honestly, but mastering it makes your English flow so much more naturally. Moving right along, Section 2, reporting what others say, going from direct to indirect speech. You know, direct speech is fantastic for writing when you want those exact word-for-word quotes. But in real-life conversation, we rely heavily on indirect reported speech. When we drop those mental quotation marks to make it indirect, we can't just repeat the exact words like a parrot. We have to make a few crucial adjustments. Basically, we step our verb tense back in time and we adjust our pronouns. So a direct quote like, I feel ill, smoothly becomes, she felt ill. When shifting tenses, just remember to take one step back in time. Present tense becomes past tense. So if Sue says, I am studying, you'd report it as, she said she was studying. Now, present perfect and past tense, they both take a step back to the past perfect. For example, I went to the store becomes she said she had gone to the store. And the future tense uses the conditional, changing I will go to he said he would go. Once you memorize these changes, honestly, you'll never stumble when, catching up with friends or reporting a meeting's outcomes again. Okay, here is an absolutely crucial point. Questions change structure too. If you're reporting a simple yes or no question like, is it raining? Remember 3 easy things. First, drop the question mark. Second, swap the word order so the subject comes before the verb. And third, use the words if or whether to glue it all together. So, is it raining? Elegantly becomes, Tom asked if it was raining. Okay, Section 3, asking politely with indirect questions. Let's be real. Walking right up to a stranger and demanding, where's the bathroom, can sound a little, aggressive, right? To soften our inquiries, we use the golden rule of indirect questions. Step 1, introduce a polite softener. Steps 2 and 3, step away from that inverted question order and use standard affirmative word order, subject, then verb. And most importantly, we completely drop the do or does helper verbs. Just throw them out. Let's put that golden rule into action. In a direct question, we have the verb is, followed by the subject, the bank. But in our indirect version, we add a polite opening, and the subject, the bank, now comes before the verb is. So we get, could you tell me where the bank is? See the difference? It instantly makes the request sound courteous, professional, and honestly, way more likely to get a helpful response. So, what exactly are these softeners? Well, you can start your indirect questions with any of these fantastic phrases. Some are questions themselves like, could you tell me? Or, do you happen to know? Others are just really polite statements like, I was wondering, or I'd like to know. Imagine you're at a nice restaurant. Instead of abruptly asking the waiter, "What's the soup of the day?" you use a softener. "Could I ask what the soup of the day is?" It completely changes the vibe of the whole interaction. Now, what if there's no question word like who, what, or where? Just like we saw earlier with reported speech, if you have a simple yes or no question, like, "Is this seat taken?" you just grab the words if or whether to link your softener to the subject. So it beautifully transforms into, "Do you know if the seat is taken?" It's smooth, it's polite, and it keeps that standard word order perfectly intact. And that brings us to section 4, seeking confirmation with tag questions. I absolutely love tag questions. They're those brilliant little short questions that just sit right at the very end of a sentence. We use them when we want agreement or to double check if information is correct. And they operate on a strict opposite polarity rule between the main sentence and the tag. Plus, a golden rule here. You must always, always use a personal pronoun in the tag itself. Words like he, she, or they. Let me show you exactly how this polarity works. If your statement is positive, like "you are a teacher," the tag at the end flips to the negative, "aren't you?" Conversely, if the statement is negative, like "they don't like coffee," the tag becomes positive, "do they?" It's kind of like a seesaw. This creates a natural conversational rhythm that actively invites the other person to respond and engage with you. Now, English wouldn't be English without a few quirky exceptions, right? So there are a few special cases to memorize. If you make a suggestion starting with let's, the tag is always shall we, like let's dance, shall we? If you use a command, like open the window, the tag is will you? And my absolute personal favorite, just because it sounds so delightfully strange, when you use I am, the tag becomes aren't I, as in I'm late, aren't I? I know it feels a little weird, but it is totally correct and incredibly common. Okay, look at that. You have just mastered the essential rules for clear, polite, and deeply effective communication. We've covered objects, reported speech, softeners, and tags. And listen, these aren't just grammar rules, they're your secret weapons for sounding professional and building genuine relationships in English. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Now that you have this powerful toolkit, are you going to keep second-guessing yourself in your head? Or are you ready to step out there and truly connect? Start practicing today, and thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.